Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at the contribution made by the Lord Sandhurst in the debate in the House of Lords regarding Amendment 297F and 297G of the Healthcare Bill, and these are amendments protecting women-only space in hospital. So let's watch Lord Sandhurst's short speech. It is only a short one, and then I'll see you back here for a little discussion.
My Lords, I speak in support in particular of 297G. This will give much needed statutory force to what has been long stated NHS policy, but which is not always being properly implemented, and which is why I will demonstrate the current guidance is equivocal upon. I am not, I hasten to add, a conspirator against trans people. I make that absolutely plain. And I resent the suggestion that those speaking in support of this amendment might be thought to be. My Lords, the current NHS guidance, which goes back historically a long way, as we've heard, is in these terms. All providers of NHS-funded care are expected to prioritise the safety, privacy and dignity of all patients. We all agree with that. Adherence to this guidance is an essential part of this. It then goes on to talk about mixed accommodation. What is a mixed-sex accommodation breach? Patients should not normally have to share sleeping accommodation with members of the opposite sex. Patients should not have to share toilet or bathroom facilities with members of the opposite sex. Patients should not have to walk through an area occupied by patients of the opposite sex to reach toilets or bathrooms. This excludes corridors. That is what hospitals should be doing, but I ask you all to note in particular the terminology. Note the use of the terms mixed sex and opposite sex. Sex, we all know, is physiological. It dates for conception. It is not something assigned at birth or at some later date. Sections 11 and 212 of the Equality Act, the definitions of man and woman, refer to sex, not gender. Further, Part 7 of the Schedule 3 of the Equality Act provides at paragraph 27 that a person does not contravene Section 29 of the Equality Act by providing a service only to persons of one sex if that service is provided at a place which is or is part of a hospital, or if the circumstances are such that a person of one sex might reasonably object to the presence of the opposite sex. So hospitals are free to do what they wish and to prioritise single-sex wards. But in contradiction of the law, physiology, and the primary guidance to which I've referred above, Annexe B of the guidance provides, and I can't read it all out because we haven't got time, transgender is a broad inclusive term referring to anyone whose personal experience of gender extends beyond the typical experience of their assigned sex at birth. So we're moving from sex to gender, and it is premised on a scientific flaw. Building on that error, it continues, if patients are transferred to a ward, this should also be in accordance with their continuous gender presentation, unless the patient requests otherwise. So it's not there saying they should be put somewhere safe or separate. They should go to the ward which they wish. And if they say a women's ward, they go to a woman's ward. That is not what Secretaries of State, what has been policy for 20 years, and it departs from the primary guidance, and it is, I submit, and I'm sure you will all agree, something which is wrong. It discriminates against women who don't wish to be in the presence of someone who is an intact male, as some trans people will be. So there we are. Clause 297G, the amendment there, is one which is perfectly reasonable, it is absolutely right, and I urge the noble lords to adopt it.
I thought that was a brilliant speech, absolutely cracking. I thought that he absolutely nailed it, And I am not someone that is very familiar with all of these lords, and Lord Sandhurst is one that I wasn't previously aware of. So he is really, really clear that the problem is that you've got this guidance, and the guidance doesn't seem to match the Equality Act, which defines man and woman as a male of any age and female of any age. You know, these are the definitions. And you can't say that you are going to provide single-sex wards and then put people of the opposite sex in the ward, because it's no longer a single-sex ward. And it doesn't matter what kind of fancy language you use to kind of try and argue your way around that point. There's no argument. The problem is that you are actually putting someone that's of the opposite sex in a ward with people that are expecting single-sex accommodation. So I think it's really, really key that he is talking clearly about sex, mixed sex, opposite sex. He mentions that sex dates from conception. It's fixed at that point and it never changes. So you are either going down the male pathway or you're going down the female pathway. From the moment that sperm and that egg fuse, that's it, game over. It's decided. And you get one shot at it and there's no take backs. And it's really great, so great to see someone actually stand up and say that, isn't it? I mean, we've become used to madness around us. So when someone speaks up and speaks sanely, it really stands out. We're in a dark place. So I really, really liked the fact that he was so clear. And he also made the point that just because we're saying we want these single-sex wards, it's not a conspiracy against trans people. It's not actually about that. It's about protecting the rights of people that want single-sex accommodation in hospital. And as he said, you know, you can't have a little group of people that can decide where they want to go and just say they want to go on the women's ward and then go on the women's ward. You know, this contravenes all of these decades of work in order to ensure that we do actually have single-sex accommodation in hospitals. And we're not going to give that right up. We're not going to give that right up. So I was very, very pleased to see Lord Sandhurst support these amendments. Thanks for joining me for another video. Please like, subscribe, share the love. If you'd like to support me practically and send me a tip on PayPal, the details are in the description box. Thank you ever so much. It's absolutely brilliant when someone sends me a tip. I love it. I will see you again soon. We are cracking through these speeches from the Lords in the debate on amendments 297F and G. And next up is my favourite, Lord Blencathra. See you soon.